Restoring Men in History. This is a fantastic one. We're going to show you a video of a teacher talking to a student, teaching a student how to think. And I think if the world could think better, we would all be better, right? My buddy Scott sent this a week ago. Meant to get to it earlier. Let's go into it. And listen, this teacher is asking the student questions, and I think this is a great way to foster dialogue, conversations. We do it in the groups, right? Do a reading, and then we'll start asking questions. So, and the guys are phenomenal, and they're outstanding men, so they have exceptional comments. So we have an incredible discussion because these men are so fantastic. So this teacher does a fantastic job. We're going to watch it. But before we do it, let's read a quote. Because I really like this. And it can also be a way to make people think about freedom by asking questions, right? I prefer when people are trying to win the argument, you can move people actually away, right? So by asking questions, you might make them consider the freedom side. So it's a good way to have people brought to the freedom side, I think, by asking questions and making them think. So that's a value. Peter Connor at Colorado State University, and this is from Colorado State University, says, developed by the Greek philosopher Socrates, the Socratic method is a dialogue between teacher and students, instigated by the continual probing questions of the teacher in a concerted effort to explore the underlying beliefs that shape the students' views and opinions, right? So that's good. Before we get to the video, one piece from Psychology Today, groupthink is a phenomenon that occurs when a group of well-intentioned, well, maybe sometimes not so well-intentioned, we've seen, but let's go on. A group of well-intentioned people makes irrational and non-optimal decisions spurred by the urge to conform. We've had a lot of conformity, right? Or the belief that dissent is impossible, and we've seen that. We've seen conformity and dissent is impossible, right? The problematic or premature consensus is that a characteristic groupthink may be fueled by a particular agenda. Yes, we've seen a lot of agendas pushed, right? Do we need to go into them? Mask, Ukraine, COVID, experimental shots, right? Trump. All right, now let's go on to the video. And commend this teacher first for just his demeanor, the way he asked the questions. And this is a really great teacher. I really loved this. I applaud this man. 3 cheers for this guy. Let's watch.
So these guys want to talk about J.K. Rowling? Is that so? What's going on with that? What do you want to know?
She's had a pretty controversial past. I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? And, like, do you still like her work despite her bigoted opinions?
So let's get specific, though.
Okay, let's stop here. This is fantastic, right? He asked a question. Let's get specific. What opinions are bigoted? Not hostile, friendly. Notice his low-key demeanor. He's calm. He's assured. But he's not pushy. And he's not trying to win an argument. He's just trying to make the student what? Think. Then he goes on.
Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted? We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think.
And I like this one. This is just fantastic. I really love this one. Scotty sent this. And notice how he says, I'm not going to say what's wrong or right. His agenda is just what? To make a better thinker, which is what Socrates was trying to do, which is what a good teacher is trying to do, right? So this is good. If you like our mission, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. So they're having a discussion. The teacher's not bringing emotion to it. He's very calm and laid back, right? Discussions like this are good for society. This is a way to have a discussion by asking each other questions. We can move forward that way. We can get along better that way. We can have a society that talks instead of hates, right? You just need to ask questions. They're having a real dialogue, not to win an argument, but to delve in and have a deep conversation. That's also one way to break that group thing that I put at the beginning. Ask people and help them understand where they got their opinions and help you understand where they're coming from, right? We want to understand people, right? I want to understand people better. That's why I've asked certain people questions when I heard them in LA say something. So the whole point for him is to what? Watch.
Yeah.
So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that given her bigoted opinions.
Yeah.
So first let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions?
So he goes on in about real short time. Does she have bigoted opinions? You can stop right there. Does she have bigoted opinions? And that's fantastic. He asked a question. And notice how he said the whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think. I love that part. Learn how to think, not what to think. Isn't that a great teacher's job? Learn how to think, not what to think. And you see the indoctrination schools and the Marxist indoctrination schools pushing, you're going to think this way and assimilate and conform or else, right? We're going to critical race theory. We're going to push this Marxism. You're going to be a Marxist, right? So this is good. It's a good teacher because the Department of Education pushing the trans movement, right? And we're talking about trans here, right here. So going on.
So when you say bigoted opinions,
She has had a history of being extremely transphobic, I've heard.
you've heard. So what? Can you give me an example?
So student says she has a history of being transphobic, I've heard, right? And this is a good stop. He says, can you give me an example? So when you're out there talking to people and they say something like, Trump is a racist, you can ask for an example, right? How is Trump racist? I just like how he interacts, this teacher. Nice, pleasant, non-emotional. This is really fantastic. I really love this. So teacher asks how you also then, how you find that bigoted, right? He's really just asking questions the whole way, Pete, through what do you find bigoted about that? These are good questions as we go through this and on. So all the questions are leading the student to what? Think. Remember, when he says that to you, I want to go back. I have heard. I have heard. So this is a good stop because he's heard it. He's heard it. And that's what some people do sometimes.
If you look at her Twitter, I think you could see a few things. If you want, I could try and find
see
something.
See if you can find one.
So, one of these tweets that she came out with in 2019, she said, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real."
So you find that bigoted?
So the student finds the tweet, he reads the statement that ends sex is real. Teacher asks, do you find that bigoted? So all these great questions leading to thinking. He says it's deemed transphobic. The teacher says, do you find that transphobic? Again, not what people say, not what he's heard, do you find it? And here we get to the big piece because, and this shows how much that faction wants to shut down discussion. They went after J.K. Rowling and created this narrative that she was transphobic. They saw her as what? An enemy, try to destroy her. That faction sees it as a war for their side. They're going to push that. And going on. Let's watch this. Keep watching.
What do you find about
It was
in there?
It was deemed transphobic. Like, I myself,
Do you find that transphobic yourself?
I don't really have an opinion on it, but I'm just going with what a lot of other people have said.
So let's pause there. Let's not.
And that's the thing I wanted to get to. So I don't have an opinion on it. I'm just going on. So he came in with an opinion. Now he's saying he doesn't have an opinion. No problem with the student. He's learning here. Nothing about him. But he came in with a strong opinion, right? Now he's saying, I don't have an opinion. I'm just going with what other people said. You see? So in Los Angeles, I was at a gym one time working out with the weights, hitting the weights. And I overheard a guy saying Trump is racist. So I went over and said, hey, man. Oh, wait. Yeah, before he said that, he said Trump is a dictator. I said, how is he a dictator? Well, we went down this long path standing there talking. I was just asking questions of how he's a dictator, what laws he passed, who he's arrested, what he's done. Anyway, of course, he didn't have any background. He just kept repeating Trump as a dictator. The point is, I stood there a long time and we talked. We had a discussion and he actually enjoyed it. So then there's the Trump is a racist thing, which I'd heard. And I'd said, how's Trump a racist, right? You start asking, how's Trump a racist? What do you mean by that? So there was a girl in a cigar bar, and I went up to her and she said, Trump's a racist. And I said, what do you mean he's a racist? And she said, well, this article, and I knew the article, I'd read it. The actual article was proving the opposite. So there's a lot of people that go into headlines and they don't read anything else, or they see clips, right? MSNBC clips. So, because when I've delved into it in LA, and just by asking questions nonchalantly, not trying to win an argument necessarily, I just wanted to make that girl think. And I did kind of want to make her think Trump is not a racist, right? Because she had read a title that said Trump is a racist. And I don't know how many times she'd seen it, right? How many times do you see an MSNBC clip on social media where you've only seen 10 seconds, 20 seconds, people's attention span is short, right? You've seen 20 seconds, or you've seen the headlines, but you haven't read it. Because she had not read the piece. She finally admitted, well, I haven't really read it, right? So you got the guy in the gym and her, and there's plenty of other examples of in LA of this happening. Here's the point I'm getting to. From the Jewish Virtual Library, it states this. Goebbels is attributed to saying a line and about a repeating line. We've talked about this in the groups, so I'm going to bring it up because this has come up in the groups many, many times. And through COVID and through all the things. And there's, according to the Jewish Virtual Library, there's no evidence that he said it, but I like it. But it does seem to work on the people like that girl and that guy who have convinced themselves that Trump is a dictator, Trump is a racist, the man in the gym and this girl. Now, I had a friendly conversation with the man, and he even said at the end, I'd love to meet again and talk. Okay, that's a win for us. He said, you've made me think, right? We can make people think, that's a win. So that guy was clearly strongly on the left in LA. And he said, I'd love to talk again to you. But here's the quote. If you tell, and this is the one we've all heard, right? We've talked about this in the groups a lot. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such a time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. Have we seen that? So this may not have been said by Goebbels, but I think it has a lot of truth in it. For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is what? The greatest enemy of the state. And we've seen that play out, right? During COVID, during the vaccines, during the shots of their mask. If you dissented, if you didn't assimilate, if you didn't conform, that's why I wanted to start with that opening quote. By the way, that's also the great detriment to mass psychosis in the man's book, Desmond. He writes about it, truth and community. So the men's groups and truth will break mass psychosis. And so the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. And in Virtual Jewish Library says that's an excellent definition of the, quote, big lie. It's just that there's no evidence that it was used by Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels, it says, although it is attributed to him. And you saw that, and through the shutdown, the narratives, we have to close all business. Oh, no, just small businesses. You can go into the big stores altogether. We've seen all the illogical things. Wear one mask, wear two masks, right? So we don't need to go through all that. Hey, if you go outside, you're going to kill grandma. If you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill grandma, right? We've heard all this. Thus, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state or of the narrative the powers that be are pushing, right? Look how many people they shut off social media for having a different opinion. Misrepresentation. You've seen the powers that be trying to shut down dissenting opinions, misinformation, and as they misrepresent things, right? That's what the funny thing is. They can misrepresent, but you are, if you disagree with them, it's misinformation, right? And trying to push that groupthink and conformity, right? The OSS said this had a psychological profile of Hitler. This is from the Jewish Virtual Library of Hitler, described his use of the big lie. His primary rules were never to allow the public to cool off, never admit a fault or wrong. Does this sound familiar? Never concede that there may be some good in your enemy. Never leave room for alternatives. Never accept blame. Does this all sound familiar during the last 2 years? Concentrate on one enemy at a time and blame him for everything. Who are they blaming here? J.K. Rowling, right? She's the enemy to them. She didn't go with the narrative. She didn't stay with the program. And if you repeat it, people will believe a big lie sooner than a little one. And if you repeat it frequently enough, people will sooner or later believe it. There you go. Does that sound familiar to the agencies and all those three-letter agencies? And the government pushing? Never admit fault or wrong. We saw that. Never concede there may be some good to your enemy. Just shut them off altogether. Right? The centers of mask were shot down and treated as enemies, right? They were blamed for spreading it, getting people sick, right? If you didn't take the shot, if you didn't take the jab, right? Or Trump is racist, right? We heard that in LA a lot. So here's the point. Read and think. Don't just hear narratives. Think through it and ask questions. And here he goes again. Let's watch the video again. Get back to the video.
Let's not go with what other people are saying. Let's try and learn how to critically think. So let's analyze the tweet ourselves. So that statement, do you see anything problematic? Disregarding other people's opinions.
And I like how he says this. I love this guy. Fantastic. Let's not go with what other people said, right? And let's learn how to what? Critically think. That's a great teacher. And then he goes on to say another one around, do you see anything wrong with that tweet disregarding other people's opinions? Making the guy think. So this is wonderful. Glad Scotty sent it to me. I think we've covered most of it. Hats off to the teacher. Again, the apology tweet they go over. Watch this. This is pretty good. We'll watch some of this. The apology tweet. Their interaction here is good. Let's watch it.
She did try and pin some things on a specific group of people.
Where does she do that? Can you read that?
But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real.
So when I hear that, I'm interpreting that as meaning if a woman says that, saying that there's a difference between men and female and then being attacked as transphobic, I think that's what she's saying by attacking someone for stating that sex is real.
That is exactly what she's saying.
Is that transphobic to you?
So, to me, no. Stating that sex is real is not transphobic. It's just a fact of life. It exists.
So is there anything you disagree with in that tweet?
In that tweet, I can't really see anything that I myself disagree with, but I can see why some people would think, oh, this is offensive. We can't have that here or something, because
Sure.
There's an apology tweet.
Let's read that. What did she say there? I haven't read that.
I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it is hateful to say so.
You see anything problematic there?
She's apologizing, so no, not really. If I could read it again.
It sounds like a very similar statement as what she was just saying. She's basically saying, like, I have nothing, to me, this is what I interpret it as, I have nothing against someone being trans.
Exactly.
Live your life, but you just don't get to impose on you can live how you want, I can live how I want.
Yeah.
And let's all,
Exactly.
So I guess now that we're looking at it like, oh, there's not much difference between me or her, do you think it's fair that that she's being attacked by a large group of people and people are calling her, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, you said, given the fact that J.K. Rowling is transphobic, how do you feel about Harry Potter? Now, retroactively looking at that statement, do you think that was the best way to phrase?
No, I feel like an idiot now.
It's okay though, but this is why we do this, to learn how to think.
There's been so in my class specifically, in our class, there's been quite a few people in there who have been saying like, oh, she's transphobic. I've not, until today, I haven't really thought about it because I just believe there's 5 people saying it. It must be correct.
True.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That was great.
And I love the ending. To me, this is what I interpret. He's not trying to dominate or force his opinion on him. He's trying to have a conversation, dialogue, which we should be having. And it's as if I have nothing against someone being trans. Live your life, right? So here's the key. That's what most of us would. We don't care what you do in your house. We don't care what you're doing at your home. We don't even care if you get on the street dressed oddly. What we care about is don't push it in the schools on the children, right? We really don't care what you do in your bedroom at home. That is not what's upsetting us. That is not the battle. What you do in your home and your bedroom. It's when you push it, you try to coerce us into adopting the language or shutting down the dialogue. And force it in the schools and force it on kids. And the left's not content. They want to force you to do it. That's the problem. And they want to ruin anybody who doesn't agree with them, like J.K. Rowling, right? Look at the attacks on her because she didn't go full on with their narrative. So we can be kind to everybody, we can be nice to everybody, and you can do what you want in your bedroom, but can't force us to accept lies. That's the main thing. We're not going to accept lies. We're not going to repeat them. And we're not going to call a woman a man, right? So there you go. And I love how he wraps up then. And remember, at the beginning, the guy did have an opinion. The first question was J.K. Rowling is transphobic or something like that. And how do you feel about Harry Potter? Remember? And he doesn't make the student feel badly. Just trying to, he said, that's all right. We're just trying to make you think better, right? And that's the key. So look, here's the takeaways. Have good conversations. Ask good questions. We can help break these narratives by asking questions being pushed by the powers that be. By doing that, we don't need to get in arguments to win or feel good about ourselves or prove how smart we are, that we have knowledge. That doesn't matter. Get in conversations because you care about people and because you care about the truth and because you care about freedom and you want to understand other people, where they're coming from. And you want to have a dialogue and conversation to possibly make them think, maybe move them to the freedom side. And we'd be a better society if we can just have conversations, not full of hatred, just having two people talk and ask questions and going back and forth. If you like our message, please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification button. Thank you.